Kang Do-yoon woke up to silence. He always woke up to silence. The world had been quiet for 12 years now. He pushed himself off the old mattress and looked at the concrete wall beside his bed. Thousands of small lines covered it. Each line was one day. He picked up a piece of broken metal and scratched another mark. Day 4382. He had stopped counting years long ago. Days were easier. The bunker was cold and dark. Do-hyun walked to the small room where he kept his plants. This was his favorite place. Green things grew here under purple lights. Tomatoes, lettuce, a few beans. They were his only friends now. "Good morning," he said to the tomato plant. His voice was rough from not speaking. "You look healthy today." The plant did not answer. Plants never did. But Do-hyun talked to them anyway. A man needed to hear a voice, even if it was his own. He ate a small breakfast. 2 tomatoes and some dried beans. Food was always limited. He had learned to eat less. His body had become thin, but he was alive. That was something. After eating, Do-hyun climbed the ladder to check his sensors. The bunker was deep under what used to be Seoul. Above him, the city was dead. Buildings had fallen. Roads had cracked. The air was poison. Nothing lived up there anymore. The withering had killed everything. Do-hyun remembered the plague well. It came fast and killed faster. People got sick in the morning and died by night. Hospitals filled in days. Governments fell in weeks. Within 3 months, most of humanity was gone. Do-hyun survived because he was already underground, working in a research facility. By the time he came out, everyone was dead. He searched for others for 5 years. He walked through empty cities. He called out on every radio channel. He found only bodies and silence. Eventually, he accepted the truth. He was the last one. The final human on a dead world. The sensors showed nothing. They never showed anything. But Do-hyun checked them every day. Hope was a hard thing to kill. He went back to his plants and worked. He moved water from tank to tank. He checked the roots for disease. He picked the right vegetables carefully. This was his life now. Simple, quiet, lonely. The alarm screamed. Do-hyun dropped his water container. His heart jumped in his chest. The alarm had not made a sound in 7 years. 7 years of silence, and now it was screaming. He ran to the sensor room. His hands were shaking. On the old screen, he saw movement. 3 figures walked toward his bunker door. They moved through the dead streets like they owned them. Their steps were smooth and confident. Do-hyun's mouth went dry. People. There were people outside. No. He looked closer. These were not people. They were too tall. They moved too smoothly. Their bodies were wrong somehow. Not human. Something else. He grabbed an old metal pipe from the corner. It was rusty but heavy. It would have to do. He had no guns. He had never needed them before. The figures stopped at his door. Do-hyun watched the screen with wide eyes. What would they do? Break it down? Burn it? He had seen enough old movies to know that aliens were usually bad news. They knocked. Do-hyun blinked. They knocked? Like visitors? Like normal people coming to see a friend? The knock came again. 3 firm hits on the metal door. His legs felt weak, but he moved anyway. He climbed down to the main door. The pipe was cold in his hands. His heart beat so fast it hurt. He opened the door. 3 women stood before him. At least, they looked like women. They were very tall, almost 2 meters each. Their skin had a soft purple color, like a bruise that was healing. Their eyes were gold with black lines down the middle, like cat eyes. They wore black armor that looked expensive and dangerous. The one in front studied him. Her face was calm and serious. She had short, dark hair and a small scar on her chin. Kang Do-hyun, she said. He almost fell down. She spoke Korean. Perfect Korean, like she had spoken it all her life. How do you know my name? His voice was a whisper. We know many things, she said. My name is Narration. These are Ji-won and Yoonji. She pointed to the women beside her. We have traveled very far to find you. Why? Do-hyun held his pipe tighter. What do you want from me? Narration looked at him for a long moment. Her gold eyes were impossible to read. Then she turned and made a small gesture with her hand. 3 small shapes stepped out from behind the tall women. Children. Small children with purple-tinted skin and dark human hair. They had gold eyes like the women, but their faces were softer. More human. One girl looked about 7. She stood straight and proud, but her hands were shaking. A boy stood next to her, maybe 6 years old. He stared at Do-hyun's feet, too shy to look up. The smallest was another girl, about 5. She looked directly at Do-hyun with eyes that seemed too old for her young face. 7 galactic years ago, Narration said slowly, you gave your genetic material to a research program. You were told it was for medical studies. This was not true. Do-hyun felt the world spinning around him. These are your children, Kang Do-hyun, and someone is trying to kill them. Do-hyun stood frozen at the door. The pipe fell from his hands and hit the ground with a loud clang. Children, his children. The words did not make sense in his head. That is impossible, he said. I have never been with anyone. I have no children. Narration stepped closer. Her gold eyes were patient. You gave samples to the Earth Genetic Archive program. You signed papers. You received payment. Do-hyun remembered. 12 years ago, before the withering, he was a poor university researcher. A company offered money for genetic samples. They said it was for medical research, curing diseases, helping humanity. He needed money for his experiments. He signed without reading all the papers. That was for science, he said weakly. Not for making children. The Galactic Cooperative does not care about human science, Narration said. They wanted to see if human genes could mix with other species. Humans are strange to them. You live on a dangerous planet. You fight wars constantly. You die easily, but refuse to give up. They wanted to understand why. The 3 children watched Do-hyun carefully. The oldest girl had her fists tight at her sides. She looked ready to fight him if needed. May we come inside? Narration asked. The air here is still poison. The children cannot breathe it for long. Do-hyun looked at the small faces. Whatever they were also partly him. He could see it now. The boy had his nose. The youngest girl had the shape of his eyes. They were strangers, but they were also family. Come in, he said. The bunker felt smaller with 8 people inside. Do-hyun led them to his main living area. The Huntresses had to bend their heads to fit through the doors. The children stayed close together, watching everything. Ji-won, the tallest Huntress, checked all the corners of the room. Her movements were quick and careful, like a soldier checking for enemies. Yoonji, the third one, stood near the door with her hand on her weapon. Please sit, Do-hyun said. He felt strange being a host. He had not had visitors in 12 years. He did not even have enough chairs. Narration sat on an old box. The children sat on the floor near her feet. They looked tired. The smallest one was already falling asleep against her sister. Tell me everything, Do-hyun said. Narration spoke for a long time. She explained that her people, the Valori, were hunters. They were famous across the galaxy for tracking and killing. Governments hired them. Rich people hired them. They never failed. The Galactic Cooperative made the hybrid children in secret laboratories. They mixed human genes with Valori genes to create something new. but the experiments were considered failures. The children were too human, they said. Too emotional. Too unpredictable. The Valori Dominion ordered their termination, Nare said. The words sounded cold and horrible. We were sent to do it. Do-hyun's blood went cold. You were sent to kill them? Yes. Nare did not look away from his eyes. Ji-won, Yoonji, and I were assigned this task. We found the children in a facility on the edge of Valori space. They were kept in small rooms. They had numbers, not names. They had never seen the outside. The oldest girl spoke suddenly. I was number 7. My sister was number 12. My brother was number 9. Her voice was angry and hurt. We were supposed to end them quickly, Nare continued. But when we arrived, number 12 was crying. She missed the woman who fed her. The woman had been transferred away. Number 9 was sitting in the corner, drawing plants he had never seen with his finger on the dusty floor. Number 7 stood in front of them both, ready to fight 3 trained killers with her bare hands. Nare paused. Something changed in her gold eyes. Something softer. I have killed many beings, she said quietly. I have never felt guilt. But looking at these children, I felt something break inside me. We took them and ran, Ji-won said. It was the first time she spoke. Her voice was deep and rough. We are now criminals in Valori space. They will never stop hunting us. Why come here? Do-hyun asked. Why Earth? There is nothing here. Exactly, Yoonji said from her position by the door. Earth is dead. No resources. No value. No one will look here. It is the perfect hiding place. And you are here, Nare added. Their father. The only human who might care if they live or die. Do-hyun looked at the children again. The boy was staring at his plant room through the open door. His eyes were wide with wonder. He had probably never seen real plants before. What are their names? Do-hyun asked. They have no names, Nare said. Only numbers. Something burned in Do-hyun's chest. Anger. Sadness. These children had lived their whole lives as experiments. No names. No family. No love. And now someone wanted them dead. He looked at the oldest girl. Do you want a name? She stared at him with surprise. No one had asked her what she wanted. Yes, she whispered. Do-hyun thought carefully. He remembered his grandmother, a strong woman who had survived war and poverty. She never gave up on anything. Yuna, he said. Your name is Yuna. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away quickly, but Do-hyun saw them. He looked at the boy. Haejin, he said. It meant great and talented. The boy who drew plants in the dust deserved a name about growth. Finally, he looked at the smallest girl. She was awake now, watching him with those strange old eyes. Somi, he said gently. The name meant small and beautiful. So I smiled. It was a tiny smile, but it was real. Nare watched this with an expression Do-hyun could not read. Finally, she asked the question that mattered most. Will you let us stay, Kang Do-hyun? Will you protect your children? Do-hyun looked around his small bunker. He barely had enough food for himself. The air outside was poison. Killers would eventually come looking. Everything about this situation was impossible, but he was the last human alive. What was the point of surviving alone? What was the purpose of growing tomatoes if no one would ever eat them? Stay, he said. All of you. We will figure this out together. Haejin stood up slowly. May I see the plants? He asked in a small voice. Yes, Do-hyun said. His throat felt tight. Come, I will show you. As he led his son into the garden room, Do-hyun realized something strange. For the first time in 12 years, he did not feel alone. The first weeks were difficult. 8 people in a bunker made for one person meant problems. There was not enough space. There was not enough food. There was not enough air. Do-hyun worked harder than he had worked in years. He found old rooms in the bunker that he had never used. He cleaned them and made beds from old blankets. He taught Narration how to fix the air filters. He showed Ji-won where to find clean water in the underground pipes. The Huntresses learned fast. They were trained to adapt to any situation, but they struggled with some things. They did not understand why Do-hyun talked to his plants. They did not know how to cook food instead of eating nutrition bars. They had never lived in one place for more than a few days. "Your species is strange," Yoonji said one evening. She was watching Do-hyun prepare soup from dried vegetables. "You spend so much time on small comforts. Why does it matter how food tastes?" "Because it makes life worth living," Do-hyun said. "Surviving is not the same as living." Yoonji thought about this for a long time. She did not answer, but she ate 3 bowls of soup that night. The children changed everything. Yuna was wild and angry. She had grown up fighting for food and space. She did not trust anyone. She tested Do-hyun constantly, breaking rules and waiting to see if he would hurt her. He never did. Instead, he gave her jobs to do. Important jobs. She was in charge of checking the sensors. She was responsible for counting supplies. Slowly, her anger became pride. She was needed here. Ha-jin was the opposite. He was quiet and gentle. He spent hours in the garden room, watching the plants grow. His small hands were careful with the leaves and roots. Do-hyun taught him how to plant seeds, how to check for disease, how to give each plant exactly what it needed. "Father," Ha-jun said one day. The word made Do-hyun's heart jump. "The tomatoes are sad." "What do you mean?" "They feel wrong." The big one in the corner. "Something is hurting it." Do-hyun checked the plant carefully. He found nothing at first, but then he dug deeper and found rot at the roots. Hidden rot that he would not have seen for another week. By then, the plant would have died. "How did you know?" he asked. Ha-jin shrugged. "I just felt it." The children were not fully human. Do-hyun was starting to understand this. They had abilities that normal children did not have. Ha-jin could sense plants like they were speaking to him. Yuna could hear sounds from very far away. And Somi was the strangest of all. She rarely spoke. She spent most of her time sitting quietly, watching things that others could not see. But sometimes she would say things that made no sense. "Water will fall from the broken building tomorrow," she said one morning. Do-hyun did not understand. But the next day, a water tank in a ruined building collapsed. If anyone had been scavenging there, they would have died. "A ship with red lights will pass over us in 6 days," she said another time. "But they will not stop." 6 days later, a Valori patrol ship flew over Earth. Its lights were red. It did not stop. Narration watched Somi carefully after that. "She sees time differently than we do," she said to Do-hyun one night. The children were asleep. "This is not a Valori ability. This comes from her human side." "Humans cannot see the future," Do-hyun said. "Normal humans cannot," Narration agreed. "But the mixing of genes created something new. Somi is something that has never existed before." Do-hyun looked at his sleeping daughter. She seemed so small and fragile, but inside her was a power that no one understood. As the weeks passed, Do-hyun taught the Huntresses about Earth. He showed them old photographs of cities full of people. He played old music on a broken speaker. He told them stories about human history, about wars and peace, about love and hate, about all the messy, beautiful chaos of humanity. "You destroyed your own planet," Ji-won said once. She was not being cruel. She was genuinely confused. "You had wars. You made poisons. You killed your oceans. Why?" Do-hyun thought about this. Because we were young, he said finally. Humanity was like a child. We made mistakes. We learned slowly. But we were getting better. We were starting to fix things. The withering came before we could finish. And now you are the last one, Ji-won said. Yes, Daeun looked at his children sleeping in the corner. But maybe not forever. Nare told him about the galaxy in return. She spoke of hundreds of species living among the stars. She described planets made of crystal and moons covered in living forests. She explained the Galactic Cooperative, the government that controlled everything and decided which species were valuable and which were not. Earth was marked as primitive and dangerous, she said. When the withering began, the cooperative watched. They could have helped. They had cures. But they chose to let humanity die. They said you were too violent to join the galaxy. Daeun felt cold anger in his stomach. Billions of people had died. Children, families, everyone he had ever known. And somewhere in space, aliens had watched and done nothing. They were wrong about us, he said quietly. Nare looked at him with those gold eyes. I'm starting to believe that. One day, while scavenging in an old government building, Daeun found something important. An emergency beacon. It still worked. He could turn it on and send a signal into space. Someone might come. Someone might rescue him. He held it in his hands for a long time. Then he thought about his children. If the cooperative came, they would take Yuna, Hanjun, and Somi. They would kill them for being different. For being human. Do-hyun smashed the beacon against the floor. He smashed it until it was nothing but broken pieces. Nare found him sitting among the parts. She did not ask what he had done. She just sat beside him in silence. I chose them, Do-hyun said. I chose my family. Nare put a hand on his shoulder. It was the first time she had ever touched him gently. That is the most human thing I have ever seen, she said. 6 months of peace ended with a single sound. Yuna heard it first. Ships, she said. Her gold eyes went wide. Many ships. Coming fast. Nare was on her feet in a second. She ran to the sensors and her face became stone. 6 attack vessels. Velori military. They found us, Yoonji said. She pulled out her weapon. How? Ji-won demanded. No one comes to Earth. No one cares about this dead rock. Nare shook her head. They tracked us somehow. It does not matter now. They are here. Do-hyun felt fear crawl up his spine. For 6 months, he had almost forgotten they were hiding. He had been too busy being a father. Now reality was crashing down. What do we do? He asked. Before Nare could answer, a voice came through the old communication system. Do-hyun did not know it still worked. The voice spoke in a language he did not understand, but Nare's face went pale. What is he saying? Do-hyun asked. He is Commander Taiwu, Nare said quietly. He trained me. He made me into a hunter. He's the best killer the Velori have ever produced. She listened more and then translated. He says we have 1 cycle to surrender the children. If we do not, he will burn this bunker from space. He says there is no escape. He says we should accept our deaths with honor. Haejun grabbed Do-hyun's leg. The boy was shaking. Somi stood very still, her eyes looking at something far away. Yuna stepped forward with her small fists raised. I am not going back to be number 7, she said. Her voice was scared but strong. I would rather die. Something broke inside Do-hyun. These were his children. They had been running their whole lives. They had never known safety. They had never known a home. And now death was coming for them again. No. No more running. We fight, Do-hyun said. Everyone looked at him. Ji-won laughed, but not in a mean way. You? Fight Velori warriors? You are 1 human with no weapons. I am 1 human on my planet. Do-hyun said. I know every building above us. I know where the weak floors are. I know where the poison gas collects. I know this dead city better than anyone alive. He looked at Narration. Tell me how Valori fight. I will tell you how to beat them here. Narration stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was the first time he had seen her really smile. Humanity truly does not give up, she said. Show us what you know. For the next hours, they prepared. Do-hyun drew maps of the area above the bunker. He marked dangerous spots and safe paths. He showed them buildings that looked strong but would collapse with the right push. He pointed out pools of acid rain that looked like normal water. The Huntresses set traps. They used parts from the bunker, pieces from old machines, anything that could hurt or slow down an enemy. Do-hyun helped where he could. His hands were not trained for war, but he was clever. He had survived alone for 12 years. That meant something. The children stay in the deepest room, Narration said. Haejin, you protect your sisters. Can you do that? Haejin nodded. His face was pale but determined. Yuna argued. I can fight. I am not weak. You are the strongest of them, Narration said seriously. That is why you must stay. If we all fall, you must take your brother and sister and run. Hide in the ruins. Survive. Do you understand? Yuna did not like it, but she understood. She took her siblings to the deep room without another word. The attack came at night. 6. Valori warriors dropped from the sky like deadly shadows. They moved fast and quiet through the ruins. They were hunters who had never failed, but they had never hunted on Earth before. The first warrior stepped on a floor that Do-hyun knew was weak. He fell 3 stories into a pool of acid water. His screams did not last long. The second walked into a building where Do-hyun had opened all the gas lines. When she fired her weapon, the spark lit the gas. The explosion shook the ground. 2 down. 4 remaining. Narration, Ji-won, and Yoonji fought the others in the streets. The sound of weapons in combat echoed through the dead city. Do-hyun watched on his sensors, helpless to do more. Then he saw something. A warrior had broken away from the fight. He was circling around, heading for the back entrance of the bunker. The entrance no one was guarding. Do-hyun grabbed his rusty pipe and ran. He reached the back entrance just as the warrior did. The Valori was huge, twice Do-hyun's size. His armor gleamed in the darkness. His gold eyes looked at Do-hyun with amusement. A human? The warrior said. He spoke Korean, like they all did. The last human? Fighting me? Do-hyun raised his pipe. His arms were shaking. My children are in there. The warrior laughed and raised his blade. Do-hyun did not try to fight fairly. He kicked a pile of rubble at the warrior's feet. When the alien stumbled, Do-hyun swung his pipe as hard as he could at the warrior's knee. The joint cracked. The warrior screamed and fell. Do-hyun did not stop. He hit the warrior again and again. He hit him until the alien stopped moving. Then he hit him some more. When it was over, Do-hyun stood over the body, breathing hard. His hands were covered in purple blood. He had never killed anyone before. He thought he would feel sick. Instead, he felt only cold determination. Back at the front, things were going badly. Ji-won was injured. Yoonji was pinned down. Narration was fighting Commander Taiwo alone, and she was losing. The commander was bigger, faster, and more experienced. He was playing with her. Surrender, Taiwo said calmly. You were my best student, Narration. It hurts me to do this. Give me the children, and I will make your death quick. Narration spat blood on the ground. Never. Taiwo raised his weapon for the final blow, and then Somi walked out of the bunker. She moved like she was sleeping. Her small feet stepped over rubble without looking down. Her eyes were glowing softly, a light that had never been there before. Somi, no? Do-hyun screamed. He tried to run to her, but his legs would not move. None of them could move. Something held them all in place. Taewoo aimed at the little girl. Another one to kill. Good. Somi looked at him. When she spoke, her voice was different. Deeper. Older. Like many voices speaking at once. You will not harm what grows here. Taewoo pulled his trigger. Nothing happened. The dead world remembers, Somi said. 8 billion voices. 8 billion lives. They all want you to see. Taewoo grabbed his head and screamed. All the Valori screamed. They fell to their knees, clutching their skulls, crying out in languages Do-hyun did not understand. He could not see what they saw. But he understood somehow. Somi was showing them humanity. All of it. Every life that have ever existed on Earth. Every birth and death. Every love and loss. Every moment of joy and pain. 8 billion stories flooding into minds that had never known such feeling thought it was too much. Taewoo looked up at Somi with tears running down his face. What are you? He whispered. I am Somi, she said in her own small voice. And this is my home. Leave it. The Valori ran. They called their ships and fled into the sky like frightened animals. Commander Taewoo was the last to go. He looked back once at the little girl standing in the ruins. Then he was gone. Somi collapsed. Do-hyun caught her before she hit the ground. She was so light in his arms. So small, so young. And she had just saved them all. Somi? Somi, can you hear me? Her eyes fluttered open. They were normal again. Gold with black lines. Just a child's eyes. Father, she whispered. I am tired. I know, baby, Do-hyun said. Tears were falling down his face. Rest now. You did so good. You did so good. She smiled and closed her eyes. Above them, the Valori ships disappeared into the stars. For now, they were safe. Somi slept for 3 days. Do-hyun stayed by her side the entire time. He held her small hand and talked to her softly. He told her stories about Earth, about mountains that touched the sky and oceans that went forever, about cities full of music and laughter, about all the beautiful things that humans had made before the end. You are part of that now, he whispered to her sleeping face. You carry all of them inside you. They are not gone. They live in you. When Somi finally woke up, she did not remember what she had done. She asked why everyone was looking at her strangely. She asked if she could have something to eat. Do-hyun hugged her so tight. She complained that she could not breathe. Life slowly returned to normal. But everything had changed. Haejin's garden had grown. Not just a little. In the days after the battle, green plants had spread up through the bunker's air shafts. They reached the surface and kept going. For the first time in over a decade, living things grew on Earth's surface. Do-hyun climbed up to see it. He stood in the ruins of Seoul and watched green vines crawl over broken concrete. Small flowers opened to the gray sky. Something in the children's genetics was healing the land. The poison in the soil was disappearing. The air was becoming cleaner. This is impossible, he said. We are impossible, Yuna said. She stood beside him, looking at the green with wonder. The scientists made us to be experiments. They did not know what they were creating. What are you? Do-hyun asked. Not in fear. In amazement, Yuna shrugged. We are your children. We are Valori and human. We are something new. She looked up at him with her gold eyes. Is that okay? Do-hyun put his arm around her shoulders. That is perfect. The weeks turned into months. Haejin spent every day working with the growing plants. He talked to them like Do-hyun had taught him, but the plants actually answered him back somehow. They grew where he wanted them to grow. They avoided the bad soil and reached for the clean air. Yuna trained with the Huntresses. She was fast and strong, but she fought differently than Valori. She fought like a human, with tricks and creativity. Narration said she would be a great warrior someday. Yuna said she would rather be a protector. Somi was quieter than before. She still had moments when her eyes looked far away, but she smiled more now. She played games with her siblings. She was just a child, learning how to be a child. One evening, Nari came to Dohyun with news. "I received a message," she said. "Encrypted and hidden, but I recognize the codes. It is from other Valori." Dohyun tensed. "More hunters?" "No," Nari shook her head. "Other defectors? Others like us who refuse to follow evil orders. They heard what happened here. They heard about the human who stood against Tai Wu. They heard about the child who carries 8 billion souls. What do they want? To come here." Narration looked at him carefully. "They have other hybrid children, other outcasts and criminals. They want to know if Earth will take them in." Dohyun walked outside. The surface was changing faster now. Grass grew between the broken streets. Trees were starting to sprout in the parks. The sky was still gray, but sometimes he could see hints of blue. The Huntresses followed him. His children came too, Jun carrying a small plant in his hands, Somi holding Yuna's hand. "This planet was dead," Dohyun said slowly. "Everything I loved was gone. I spent 12 years waiting to die." He looked at his strange, wonderful family. "Then you knocked on my door. We did not know what else to do," Narration admitted. "You did exactly the right thing." Dohyun turned to face her. "Tell them to come. Tell everyone who needs a home. Earth has room. Earth has always had room." Narration smiled. "The Galactic Cooperative will not like this. Earth is supposed to be dead. They will not accept it becoming a sanctuary. Let them come and try to stop us," Dohyun said. There was no fear in his voice. They let 8 billion humans die. They thought that was the end. But humans do not end. We do not give up. We do not stop fighting. Even when we are gone, something of us remains. He looked at his children, human and Valori, old and new, impossible and real. "Earth is not dead anymore," he said. "It is being reborn. And we will protect it. All of us, together." The first ships arrived a month later. Small vessels carrying refugees from across the galaxy. More hybrid children. Valori who had abandoned their people. Other species who had been forgotten or abandoned by the cooperative. Dohyun greeted each one personally. He showed them the growing gardens. He taught them how to build shelters. He told them the rules. Everyone works. Everyone shares. Everyone protects each other. Nari stood beside him as the settlement grew. "You are building something new here," she said. "Not just a hiding place. A community. A nation. Not me," Dohyun said. He watched Haejun teaching alien children how to plant seeds. He watched Yuna leading patrol groups through the growing forest. He watched Somi sitting with newcomers, somehow knowing exactly what they needed to hear. "We are building it. All of us." More ships came. More refugees. More outcasts. The Galactic Cooperative sent warnings. They sent threats. Once, they sent a scout ship that got too close. It turned around quickly when it saw the defense systems that G1 had built. Word spread across the stars. There was a place for the forgotten. A home for the lost. A dead world that had come back to life, led by the last human and 3 children who should not exist. 1 year after the Huntresses knocked on his door, Dohyun stood on a hill overlooking his new world. Seoul was green now. Forests covered the ruins. Rivers ran clear again. People, human and alien, walked through streets that had been empty for so long. Narration stood beside him. She had become something more than a bodyguard. More than a friend. something Do-hyun did not have words for yet. What happens now? She asked. It was the same question she had asked on that first night. Do-hyun thought about his answer. He thought about his tomato plants in the bunker. He thought about his children growing up strong and loved. He thought about the thousands of refugees who now called Earth home. Now we grow, he said. We keep growing. We make mistakes and learn from them. We fight when we have to and build when we can. We do what humans have always done. And what is that? Narration asked. Do-hyun looked at the green world spreading before him. At the children playing in fields that had been poisoned a year ago. At the ships bringing new families to a planet that everyone had given up on. We survive, he said. And then we make life better for those who come after us. That is all we have ever done. That is all we need to do. Narration took his hand. Her purple fingers wrapped around his pale ones. Then I am glad, she said softly, that we knocked on your door. Do-hyun smiled. For the first time in many years, he felt real hope. Somewhere in space, the Galactic Cooperative watched and worried. They had let humanity die because they feared what humans could become. Now they were seeing their fears come true in a way they never expected. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was spreading. And this time, it would not be stopped. In the bunker below, in the room where it all began. The tomato plant Do-hyun had saved was blooming. Its flowers were beautiful. Its roots went deep. Like humanity itself. It had survived the darkness. And now, it was reaching for the light.